only place for everything Vikings. 612 Vikings.
Welcome back to the 612 Vikings podcast. I'm your host, Dustin, alongside Drew. And as you guys can see on the YouTube audience, we have the man, the myth, the legend, the man that needs no introduction. We have voice of the Vikings, Paul Allen, Mr. PA. How are we doing tonight, Paul?
I'm all right. Thanks for having me on your podcast. I think man, myth, legend. I think myth would be in play now if I made a mistake about an hour ago on Twitter when I'm like putting together the game calling depth chart for Monday Night Football and waiting to do a podcast with at Viking territory. And that's not you?
Unfortunately, that is not me. That is
okay.
Dustin
Well, somebody
Baker.
got a nice free pop to the big stable, but here I am from the 952 to the 612.
There you go. Hey, pleasure to have you, Paul.
Viking territory. Got all your albums, I guess.
Yeah. And hey, you've been on their podcast, Vikes Now, with Dakota and Dustin Baker. And
yes.
I know you and Dakota are definitely big friends, and it's the Spitfire Coda. So, and I know that's her nickname for you.
Yep, she's a Spitfire. Texted her today and told her I was coming on this podcast. I'm sure I misnamed it. Thus the continued myth legend.
That is all right. Hey, if that's fine with you, we're going to get into some nitty-gritty Vikings content today and just kind of get your reactions and outcomes or whatever. Just kind of go through some Viking scenarios today, and we'll have 3 questions from me, 3 questions from Drew, and
whatever you want.
On our way.
Here I am.
Before I get started, too, I do want to say I had, what's his name? John. He works at the Viking Stadium. His name is Vikings Guy on TikTok. He wanted me to share with you real quick that back in 2009 when the Vikings signed Brett Favre, it was like a couple days into it. He got a Brett Favre jersey, and I guess he came up to you, and I guess you were like, oh, ladies and gentlemen, you're not going to believe this, that we have a Brett Favre sighting at training camp, and it appears that he's not quite in playing shape. So he wanted me to bring that up to you to see if you remember that.
Yeah, that's kind of an age-old barb, like, you know, working out at Canterbury or just being out and about. You'll see somebody say in a like a 55-year-old like me who hasn't felt his ribs in 30 years, although I'm 58, wearing a Marion Gabrick, and they're like, whoa, I mean, Marion's let himself go a little bit in the old sweater, you know, but fortunately the real Brett Favre worked out quite well until that last one. Yeah,
definitely. I got to watch the tail end of that Brett Favre era, but it's definitely watching highlights and stuff. I wish I could have watched that. That was so spectacular to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the O'Connell's first year was unbelievable. This year is phenomenal. The miracle year, you know, the team was 2-2. Dalvin ripped up his knee against Detroit at US Bank Stadium. They lost Bradford week number 1. So that, you know, but then they won a lot of games in a row. But you just never really felt that Zimmer wrapped his heart around Case Keenum. So that was different. Adrian in 2007 with the Rookie of the Year. You know, all those have a lot of memories to them, and this one is still a memory in progress. But in 2009, like when we would land, say, the team charter in, say, New Orleans, and then you board buses on the tarmac and you go to the team hotel. Well, if there are 5 buses, then I'm on bus number 5 with the rest of those of my ilk. But when the buses pulled up, you know, off gets Jared Allen, Adrian Peterson, Percy Harvin, Brett Favre, Sidney Rice, Kevin Williams, Antoine Winfield. You know, it just kept going, and there were just thick lines of people at every team hotel. Charlotte against the Panthers, Chicago Monday Night Football against the Bears. It truly was an experience of like maybe what it kind of feels like traveling with a rock band or traveling with like a super popular band and stuff, even if I was just a roadie setting the whole thing up. That's what it felt like. So 2009 was unbelievable.
Sure. Yeah, it like you said before, this season is definitely setting up to be, you know, a special season. And that kind of goes into my first question for you as of, what has led to the success for this Vikings team this season? Everybody kind of thought, even Vegas, 6.5 wins, I think their over-under was. And,
Yeah.
you signed Sam Darnold in the offseason. Oh, great, we have Sam Darnold. He had potential, give him a team around him, and some people thought, yeah, he might do pretty good. Others, not so much. What do you think has kind of led to the success this season?
I mean, it's to properly answer it, it's going to take a long time. I mean, I'm not kidding you, because there's just so much, and I'll try to do it in as truncated fashion as I know, certainly not speaking for the team, just being the announcer and being with them. Not first and foremost, but part of it is all the players who played on the defense last year, they now know the tricks and they're able to properly teach the tricks. So early in the season, with this Brian Flores defense that can be complicated and unpredictable. Last year you had Mike Evans running roughshod on the team. Keenan Allen's throwing touchdown passes. Devontae Smith's getting behind the defense for 60 and change. And, there were mistakes that were made. Not as many mistakes made this year with, look, Byron Murphy Jr. has 6 interceptions. He was on the team last year. Cam Bynum's having a terrific season. Harrison Phillips, 4 passes defensed. He had 6 in his career. So that's big. Those on defense who were in it last year, able to properly teach smart players like Grenard, Cashman, Van Ginkel, Gilmore, Shaq Griffin, teach them how to get up to speed fast, and they have. All right. Secondly, and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager, I mean, with all due respect, about the only way to put it with that 2022 draft is that it wasn't great. I mean, Lewis Seen isn't here anymore. Caleb Evans isn't here. Asamoah is starting to jump up on special teams big time. Ty Chandler, he's in and out. So, and I love Ty and I love those guys, man. But you just look at Ingram just got replaced by Reisner. So, Kwesi started with that draft. All right. And it wasn't good. But during the course of it, clearly there's been a metamorphosis with the way he approaches things. Because when you're able to get Grenard, Van Ginkel, and Cashman for the same price of Danielle Hunter, and you're able to get Aaron Jones on that 1-year deal, sniff out Sam Darnold, and of course coaches, have something to do with this. But Kwesi's on a heater, man. And the Daniel Jones move is a phenomenal move because there's minimal risk. So Kwesi and his staff and O'Connell, of course, and their group, it's just a very smart group. And it's a smart group into its 3rd year. Last year with the 4 quarterback trick, I mean, that was going to be really, really tough to win 10 or more like that. But the decisions they're making, to not come over the top on Cousins and feel they can raise Darnold, and clearly they have. They're just really, really playing mentally fast right now, and with a lot of talent. There's more, but that's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, and it looks like they've been playing together for years, especially that defense, and it's really nice to see that too. Defense that a lot of people didn't think that was going to take a big jump.
Right.
People meaning the outside media. Vikings fans, we all kind of thought you got Cashman and Van Ginkel. They're solid players, but to play like this, it seems like they played for years together.
Same here. I mean, unless I know a lot of players in the AFC. I'm not an elite AFC mind. This game calling depth chart here for the Bears that I'm just starting. Like if we're playing the Texans or the Dolphins, well, then I would know a little more about Van Ginkel, Grenard, and Cashman than generally speaking because the game's coming up. Just quite honestly, I had no idea Andrew Van Ginkel was this kind of player. Absolutely no idea. And they bring him in, and then I get my people telling me, on and off the ball, which, I know what it is. You guys know what it is, but like the nuance of it, we don't know the nuance, man. It's like I'm being told he's on and off the ball. He's high end. Well, that's what you're seeing. Off the ball, pick sixes. On the ball, bunch of TFLs. So it, again, to be able to sniff that out with Grenard, and Grenard has the sacks, but how about his work against the run? Holy cow. And Cashman goes down and they struggle. Now Ivan Pace Jr.'s down, and they're giving up they're giving up too many rushing yards for my taste. But maybe there are some things that go into that. With O'Connell, I mean, Kevin I mean, Kevin guiding it the way he does. Just think about Darnold after the Jacksonville game. That was one of the biggest wins of the year because they won the game with their quarterback throwing it to the other team, forcing it to Justin. And that's not Justin being like, dog, I got to get mine. I got to get – no. Sam was just trying to do it, because he either saw him open or he's Justin. Well, to be able to with Kevin and Josh McCown and Wes Phillips and, the rest of that offensive staff, to be able to coach that out of him, the next week, I think he went to Justin a couple of times against Tennessee where, it didn't look to be right. And then after that, against the Bears, he had that 20-yard reception in overtime, but he only have 2 catches. So to convince Sam and Justin, while this coverage is taking place, this is how it has to happen. And by the way, number 3 is going to go for 160, and 87 is going to go for 114, 109 in the second half in overtime. And as we move forward, number 3 is going to have 3. It's the 612 wants to talk about free 3. But I'm about ready to put 3 for 3 on film. And then Justin, funny, opens up, right? And he has the big game. So off the Bears game, which was the newest biggest game of the year, why? The clamp on Justin was so bad. O'Connell in that offense and Darnold burned the Bears so badly with Addison and Hawkinson, and Jones had more than 100 rushing yards too. That it loosened a little next game against Arizona, and it had to loosen against Atlanta, and look what happened. So we'll see where it goes Monday night, but, man, Kevin's doing a good job.
Yeah, before we get to Drew's question here, I just want to add on, like Jefferson said before, you either, let me be open and get all these yards and touchdowns, or you let everybody else do it, and he's fine with everybody else doing it too. That's what I really like about Jefferson too, is he's not a me guy. He's about a team guy, and that's what you really want. And, he's different from, Moss and, Diggs to an extent too, where, like I said, he's a team guy, not a me guy. So, and that's what you want on your team, especially.
Yeah, and you're right. And I love Justin, and I have a wonderful relationship with him. So I don't feel uncomfortable saying this, that there have been times I've seen him bounce off the field after victories where he hasn't had many targets because Darnold's doing it right. Then I get to the locker room and he's just kind of a different guy. And I do these things for my 9 to noon K-Fan show called Drive-Bys, where after they win, I walk around the locker room and, all right, is it Klug or Klug?
Klug.
All right, so here's Dustin Klug. What do you know? All right, let's walk over here to Justin. And Justin's always cool enough to sit down with me and talk to me for 2 or 3 minutes. Sure. After that Bears game, I don't know if these players are getting back to the locker room and immediately getting on their phones. And, if you get into, forget social media because there's not enough time, but like text messaging, okay? And then seeing with your phone, like, dog, 2 catches, you were open all day. Dog, congratulations on the win, 26 yards or whatever. He's such a competitor, and he has winning the Super Bowl and making the Hall of Fame deeply rooted in his heart. But it's been interesting with Justin to see exactly what you said. He's a team first guy. O'Connell loves working with him, calls him the best receiver in the NFL. Darnold needs him. Addison, Hawkinson, and Jones and Naylor need him. But seeing Justin gain this acceptance of, this double and triple sucks. I'm just getting no action. But we're winning, and they're going to have to loosen up. And when they loosen up, kitty, that's when they go to 18 like you saw last week.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Exactly. So I know earlier you just said that this is kind of a special season that we're having, and you kind of touched base with the 2017 season, and I kind of wanted to talk about that. And when you talk about 2017, you gotta have to talk about the Minneapolis Miracle. So when that kind of happened, what kind of separates you from being like screaming like in joy and like it's 1999, like as the Prince song goes, to having that professionalism in the announcing booth? So like, how did that kind of come up with nicknaming the Minneapolis Miracle and all that?
Well, I did kind of lose my mind in that call. So did the analyst. And, then I was doing a lot of like big radio interviews and some TV stuff after that game that I generally don't get the opportunity to do, but it was such a polarizing moment. People wanted everybody associated with purple and gold. And, I had a lot of big timers, lead off by talking to me, being like, hey, your analyst just jumped all over you, and I didn't see it that way. I was surprised that they kept saying that to me, because I'm like, that was unadulterated passion. We don't script these things, man. I remember into that drive, I think the Vikings were leading 17-0 at halftime, and US Bank Stadium at that point was the loudest I had ever heard it. And they were killing the New Orleans Saints. But then they went Peyton and the Saints went no huddle exclusively in the second half, and HOF Drew Brees did his thing. And there was a replacement long snapper. I think his name's Jeff Overbaugh. He replaced Kevin McDermott. He made like one mistake the whole year, and it led to a block punt. And then, of course, they score again. So now we're losing. So, I mean, I was just like metaphorical 2x4 just nailed me. Wow. So into that drive out of break, I said to Bursich, Pete, we're going to need a Minneapolis Miracle to win this game. And then called a couple of plays, and God just kept it in my heart and in my mind. And it came out at the perfect time when the Utah rookie, the safety, Marcus Williams, mistimed his jump. And that's just how it worked. That's just, I can't explain it. I mean, I'm just blessed and gifted that God has chosen I get to do this, and I get to deliver words like that even 7-8 years later, people are still talking about.
Yeah, I just love listening to like your radio calls, and I could listen to you talk all day too, and on the
awesome.
Bikes Now podcast, and
you're awesome, man.
Yeah, I really could. You got a great voice for everything. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Drew, if you want to ask your other question too.
So I know with kind of going back a little bit even earlier, you nicknamed the Vikings O-line the Minnesota Moving Company. What kind of came into nicknaming them that?
All right. FINA, Fairness and Nickname Act. That nickname actually was crafted by our program director, and I think he was the executive producer of the Vikings Radio Network at that time, former PA and Dubé K-Fan producer, Chad Abbott. He came up with that name, gave it to me, and that's collaboration, that's teamwork. I mean, we have a wonderful, wonderful group with whom we work on the K-Fan Vikings Radio Network. Chad's part of it, and he came up with it. I popularized it. After that, we came up with Williams Wall. I think the most interesting nickname situation, at least involving me, was in 2012. It might have been the preseason, but we're early in the season, and I'm seeing number 22, Harrison Smith, just obliterate players. So on my K-Fan 9 to noon show, I start to call him Harry the Hitman. And then I started doing it I did it in one game. So after that game, I think it was first game of the regular season, might have been Blair Walsh walking off against Jacksonville or something like that. All excited and everything, walked up to him, and we had met each other, but I didn't really know him as well as I do now. And I'm like, hey, I'm saying this on the radio. Are you cool if I call you Harry the Hitman, because it might stick? And he loved it. Then they changed some of the rules and started doling out these absurd fines for sketchy hits. And I almost changed it to Harry the Pick Man. But if Harry the Pick Man doesn't roll out the right way in cancel culture, that could be it for the old announcer, if you know what I mean. So we've stuck with Harry the Hitman.
Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great player. Do you think he gets into 100%. The Hall of Fame, or at least obviously Ring of Honor, but Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I do. I got the sheet right here that I tape up in the box every single game, and it's Harrison Smith's Hall of Fame comparisons. I mean, there's just too much here to dispute it, and I'm not willing to completely say this is his last year, and it's not like he's ever said it's his last year. Maybe it is. I mean, he's played a long time at a very physical, high level. But Harrison's done enough good things this year, and he likes, I did one of those drive-bys with him after the Atlanta game, and the thing that he said that resonated with me that we'll even bring up here on the 612 is even on Wednesdays, the hard study, get ready, like maybe the most tedious player day of the week. He's like, I can't wait to get there every single time I'm there. Wow. That's somebody who came into the league like a decade and change ago. So the more he plays, the more he adds on to all this stuff. But yeah, I believe he's done enough to become HOF.
Yeah, the one play that I kind of missed too is when we played the Bears in Chicago this year, when Caleb rolled to his right and I forgot who the receiver was downfield. I think it was DeAndre Swift, where Swift could have, easily been knocked out by Harrison Smith. If this was back in like 2012, 2013, I think that's a big hit that Harrison gives that Bears receiver, running back, whoever it was. And, it's kind of sad that we don't really get to see those big hits anymore, hence Harry the Hitman. But, I think he's Harry the Pickman this year. He has a couple picks and, counting. Hopefully he gets one Monday night.
When you were saying that, it triggered me to think about Van Ginkel again. In that Bears game, Caleb turns to the right, okay, and he had no idea Van Ginkel was going to jump it and go again. And Caleb, you just never see anybody pump and then get a screen to go. And I think they got some yards there. So that was another Van Ginkel. There he goes. And then last game against Kirk, he had another one. And
close.
I talked to him after the game, and he was like, he just wishes he had palmed it instead of like trying to tip it. But Andrew Van Ginkel is such an unassuming, quiet, dominating, ferocious type player. But then, after the game, at least around me and like seeing him at Chapel on the road and stuff and interacting with his teammates and stuff, he's just a naturally humble, quiet, authentic guy. But on the field, he's a demon. Holy cow.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm a Vikings fan, and I was actually born and raised in Wisconsin. So I like every other Wisconsin team down there. Yeah. But, when Andrew Van Ginkel was a Badger, he was a great player. And when he signed with the Vikings, I was so excited to have him on our team. Right. Because we don't really get many Badger players, good ones at least. I remember, I think one of the last Badger players that played for the Vikings was Joel Stave, the quarterback.
Oh, wow. Nice pull. I was going to say, where's he going to go? Erasmus James, Michael Bennett. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Joel Stave.
Oh, no, we didn't have Quintez Cephas. No. He was with the Lions, but he came open for a little bit. Yeah, and he never got here, right? Okay.
Yeah. So, we don't really get too many Badgers, but that's all right. We got a lot of good Gophers, so I'll say that.
Yeah, fortunately, we got the right quarterback, at least for now, from USC. I mean, if you put Caleb Williams and Sam Darnold, in front of all the GMs, I mean, I'd be foolish because of Caleb's age and his skill set and this beleaguered situation in which he's involved to say that most, if not all, wouldn't take him over Darnold. But, man, I'm telling you, that Jaguars game, that was a big one because you got to beat out of somebody. Don't force it to 18. And then it got better, and then it got a lot better, and then it got even better. And he's just on fire right now with these decisions. His natural ability to elude pressure and just naturally like duck and move and stuff. I didn't watch him with the Jets or Carolina unless we were playing them. But he's just so naturally gifted. It's and really, when it comes to the future, Sam Darnold, which is a major talker on social media, my 9 to noon K-Fan show and online and stuff. You know what kind of hit me as I was thinking about some things we may talk about tonight is it's you have to say it's not why can't Daniel Jones be the next Sam Darnold? It's O'Connell with what he pulled out of Dobbs, as long as he did, what he's gotten out of Mullins to a certain extent, except for turnovers at the ends of games, which do you put that on KO or not? And obviously Cousins and now Darnold. It's not, well, why can't they go Sam Darnold on Daniel Jones? It's almost they will go Darnold on Daniel Jones. It'll be same fishbowl, just under a different rock. And he just needs time away, like Sam had that season away with San Francisco, then OTAs to settle in and everything. Jones is chill right now, man. I see him at practice and after practice and stuff, and he's comfortable in his skin. I mean, it's you talk about being pulled from a mentally taxing meat grinder, awful situation. with all due respect, and then just said, yeah, you get to keep this money and you get to chill for this guy who, look what he's done with quarterbacks, O'Connell, McCown, and the rest of the guys. So, yeah, I mean, if Darnold's elsewhere next year, however it's elsewhere, because he can get a fat paycheck somewhere, and coaches and, general managers and owners care about that when people help you the way Sam has, then I would expect Daniel Jones to absolutely jump out of his skin with improvement, whether McCarthy is the starter or not. And I would think it's JJ's money if Sam's not here. But, yeah, I expect Daniel Jones to be raised like Sam Darnold and to be quite good.
Sure. And that kind of leads me, and I guess you kind of answered my next question here about the QB situation for 2025. There's a lot of, I don't know if there's really any wrong answers to how the Vikings go about this, because you can just roll with McCarthy as your quarterback going into next year, let Darnold and Jones go. You could keep McCarthy, keep Jones. You could re-sign Darnold. However they want to do it, I believe there's really no wrong answer. But how do you foresee this quarterback situation playing out in 2025? Is Sam Darnold, you think, going to be here? I mean, there's a lot.
I don't. It's impossible to answer. I spend a lot of time with these guys, and we talk about a lot of things. And over the years, with the privilege and the trust that they give me, I've just learned when it's time to ask questions and when it's not. And I tell you, to a man, I never have, and have zero interest in approaching Kevin O'Connell or Kwesi Adofo-Mensah right now and being like, hey, just for my knowledge, what's next with Sam? I don't want to do that, because it's a dirty talker, because it tarnishes what's happening now. If you get the right answer and like the plan, which I don't really care to get, and it's like, we're going to franchise tag for $38 million and trade him to whomever, and here's what we're going to get. Well, I don't want to think about that right now. Off 5 touchdowns? Are you kidding me? Right. But that's why I said what I said about Daniel Jones. It's not, hey, they have a chance to do with Jones what they did with Darnold. Well, no, it's there is a chance, but I expect Daniel Jones to be better than he's ever been in his life, whether it's a starter or not. Why is that? It's because of the past performances O'Connell and his group have with Sam Darnold. And Nick Mullins. So this group is good. I've said it on my K-Fan show before, I think only once, but the Vikings are going to win a Super Bowl with Kevin O'Connell. I don't know when, but they're going to win a Super Bowl with Kevin O'Connell.
Next 5 years, I think. That's for my money, I think.
Why's it got to be the next 5 years?
Hey, next 10 years. Let's give Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell extension. How about that? That's my last question, actually.
Well,
so
yeah,
what do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, with for like the organization, I'm not speaking for the organization, but all of this, the Schefters and everything with Orlovsky, and I love Dan, I love Adam, but like their big opinions on what has to be next for Sam Darnold. Okay, well, what about the head coach and the GM? I mean, honestly, I don't know when their deals end. If it's public knowledge and I haven't looked, then that's my L. I think it made 2025 sounds reasonable. I mean, you're 11-2. You might finish 15 or 14-2. You might beat the Lions the last game of the year. The Lions may lose this weekend, and the way they're ravaged on defense right now. And I love the Lions. Ain't nobody talking any bleep. I'm just saying, could happen. And then you're going to play out the postseason. Well, I mean, even before Darnold or before any of these voluminous free agents they have. What about those two? Woo! They've done a good job.
They have. I'm excited. So, Drew, what's your next question for Paul?
Yeah. So I've noticed that you have a really big, you're really into like your Christian faith and all that. And so, what kind of ways do you connect to your, your platform with your Christian faith into your day-to-day life?
Oh, love you. I don't. God does. The Bible's very important to me, and what you will hear from me in answering questions like that is never is my opinion. It's what I pull from the Bible. Like in the book of Romans written by the Apostle Paul, it clearly states God chooses us. We don't choose him. I pray a lot. I'm not big on asking for myself in prayer. I pray to God's will. I call games largely due to serve people who look for the distraction of what they enjoy from our calls in the team. That really pulls at me. So it's just basically organically living my life, awaiting opportunities to share the gospel of Jesus Christ being the only way to heaven. It's the most important thing to me in my life. I sin every single day. I pray for repentance every single day. It's an honor to be able to pray with players and staff members and coaches on the sideline before every game. That's a weekly thing with a lot of them. And it's just the most important thing in my life. But I'm not the one who gets loud about it, in Bible beating on somebody's head fashion. Again, because God's going to create these conversations when these conversations need to be created. And if anybody wants to know about it or chat about it, I'm always here. If they don't, well, God's chosen. That's how that's going to work at that moment. I'm not offended. So it's the most important thing to me in my life. I love the Bible more than anything, and I love unpacking it and learning about the genres of the epistles and the apocalyptic genre and the prophets and the gospel and everything. It's just beautiful. It's about the only way to put it.
Sure. Drew, did you have anything else you want to add on?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Yeah. Last one. Last one I have is it's a non-Vikings news, but more current event news in the world of sports is Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. What are your kind of thoughts on that? And do you think he'll be successful at his new, kind of a new landing spot for him, new landscape?
I think it's phenomenal. And, in this day and age where to have somebody run a team like Bill has proven that he can run a team as a coach and run it and run all the personnel, and you can rip his draft picks all you want, and they haven't been great. He won all those Super Bowls, and you could say, yeah, he had Brady. Cool. Okay, that matters. But there have been teams that have had good quarterbacks for a long time and haven't found a way to win a Super Bowl. Maybe not like Brady, but you know what I mean. So I think it's cool because the NFL's changed a ton. I just don't think that the way he wants to do it necessarily is super effective in this day and age of 20-year-old. Now, at the college level with the transfer portal and NIL, I mean, go ahead and go up to Bill and complain about your playing time and that you're 20 grand shy on NIL and homeboy over here who I'm better than, he gets more than me. Go ahead and do that. He and his people will find a way to get the right kind of people there. And I hope they're really, really good. My daughter goes to college at the University of Colorado, so I get out there a lot. I was there 2 months ago for family weekend. Dion's team played Cincinnati. And just, I'm not a big college football guy, and I never go to games. It's my first college football game I've gone to in a long time. Unbelievably cool. Why? Dion and the Aura, and they're good. Chapel Hill, super cool. Why? Belichick and the Aura. I mean, you got to start somewhere. It's kind of always been a flashy toy world, shiny toy world. But, with all the social media outlets and the filters and just what's shiny and what's not shiny, it's a shiny toy era. And when you come to a North Carolina Tar Heels game, like against their rival, the Wolfpack, and you got Belichick on your side, that's a shiny toy right there. That's nice.
Yeah, just the presence alone of, having a college kid, because like most of these college kids have grown up seeing this, this guy win Super Bowls with, the greatest quarterback of all time. So,
yeah.
Just that presence alone can definitely, ruffle some, kind of get some nerves settled in or nerves settled for them.
But see, like if I'm the president, chancellor, whatever they call it, the athletic director, I'm a little nervous. I mean, I'm going to have to pay a pretty penny for this. Okay, that's cool. He gets complete control. That's cool too. But, I mean, I can't see Bill sitting at a kitchen table in the middle of Anniston, Alabama, talking to a 19-year-old and his family, and they're trying to squeeze him for whatever. I just can't see him dealing with that. Or like, okay, cool. Well, you know what? Then I guess we're going to have to go down the street and find the guy who's 18 stars lower than you and bring him in at no cost and get him some NIL and make him good. That part's going to be fascinating.
Exactly. And for me, I feel like it's kind of one of those things too, where, even before the portal, like, guys like Dabo and Nick Saban, their recruiting pitch would just be like setting those rings down at the kitchen table and says,
Yeah.
if you want to win one of these, you come play for me. And he can kind of do that pitch to them now. So, because, we don't have a Nick Saban anymore in college football anymore.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not mad at
Hudson,
NIL at all. I'm really not.
Mhm.
The transfer portal sucks. I mean, I understand. Yes. Yeah, they should get the opportunity. Yes, for sure. Okay. If you guys want to leave your jobs, if I want to leave my job, we should be able to do it. And, unless the contract's all whack or whatever, be able to chase your dreams, or our happiness matters too. So I get that. The best thing I like about the transfer portal is that, like this safety, this freshman for the Golden Gophers, Coy Parrish. Now he's going to be good, and he's probably going to go to the NFL. All right. And to a man, as long as he can possibly stay at the University of Minnesota, he's going to stay. I would just, I've gotten to know him a little bit. I would just bet a lot on it. See, now people like that are really going to start sticking out, because when I'm putting together this game calling depth chart, and, like we have, let's say, Terrell Smith, 2nd year Minnesota, Jalen Johnson, 5th year Utah, Tyreek Stevenson, 2nd year Miami. Those are bad examples, but you come across guys where you'll see Dixie Community College, Wisconsin, Iowa State. Like, wow, that was a lot over 5 years,
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's weird too, because you see those star core, like the star quarterback. First guy I kind of come to my mind is Cam Newton. That's when I kind of figured like how like guys could just up and transfer. Somebody that's kind of like around my age, where I could kind of fully understand what's kind of going on a little bit and get some substance. But now it's just like guys are just transferring left and right. And it's like, and now it's like, where do they play? And then it gets kind of confusing sometimes, but it's definitely interesting to watch for sure.
See, like back to the Belichick bit, it's, Caleb Williams, when he was at USC, I mean, what was he scooping? 3-4 million, something like that in his final year. Like Belichick cares. Cool. You got the 3-4 million. I helped you get it. Here's how we're going to do it. And guess what? If I don't care if you're the most navy blue chip ever, you're out. If it doesn't work this way, and you don't get the NIL. So I just think he's going to convey that while the kids are happy with what they're getting, despite their lot in life. I just, I really hope that works that way for Bill in North Carolina.
Paul, I do want to bring up too, I know you're talking about like leaving jobs and all that as a hypothetical and stuff. And I just wanted to add, I know on Twitter, I've shared a couple videos and stuff of me going to games and capturing plays and stuff. And I get a lot of comments, people saying like, oh, amazing camera work. And you've shared one of my posts as well. Like, forgot which one it was. I think it was last year. Can't remember what game it was, but you admired the camera work as well too. I'm not floating my own boat or anything, but where would you start? So I'm 24 years old, never went to college or anything, but where would you start for someone like me to get into like the NFL, to work, maybe on the sidelines, capturing content that way? Not necessarily just social media, but something along those lines. Where would you start?
Well, off my man in the middle's question about my faith earlier, when somebody asks me a deeply rooted question like that, no matter where your faith is, whether you believe in God or not, the only way for me to start that is to say, pray to God's will for what you want and ask Him to guide you. And then recognize that it's His schedule, not yours. And don't become impatient with it and second guess it, because it's His will. That's an absolute starting point for me on that. And if nothing ever happens, then you're exactly where you're supposed to be per your plan. Secondly,
Sure.
The age part, I got into the NFL, 23 years ago. And I didn't go to college, and it's my first play-by-play job at any level. And just so much grace and so many, such a blessing. It's the only way to put it. I can't necessarily say that will happen with you or for you, sure, or anybody watching right now. I don't know. But you will know when it's time to do whatever you're supposed to do. And whether that's somehow getting in touch with people in non-obvious fashion. I ain't talking about rolling up on them when they're eating dinner and like following people and stuff, but it's not easy. Because the lines are long and the gigs are hard to find, and it's a different era. Now there's a lot more now with podcasting and YouTube and social media outlets and stuff like that, but it really is a right place, right time. And there is no designed plan to get in. It just, you just gotta wait and pray and wait and pray. And if it's meant to be, it'll happen.
Sure. Yeah, I only ask that, one of two reasons is one, for anybody else, that has a dream to do that. And, for me as well, where, coming from Wisconsin, I moved up to Minnesota about a little over a year ago now, in hopes to land some sort of sports job with, whether that's the Vikings or if I can get something else as well, maybe I can start at college level or something else as well. But, that's one of my dreams, is to work for the Vikings in some way, whether that's social media or whatever I can do to help out. And, I think that's also beneficial to other people, if you guys are this far into the podcast where, you have a dream like that to pursue.
Well, it in media relations, not only with the Vikings, but a lot of teams around the NFL, there are people that I've gotten to know through Vikings media relations who are still there, like Carly Bonk, Sam Newton, Sarah Joram is one who's been around a few years now. And what I'm saying is they kind of start here and I watch them move up and I see how they move up and how good they are and how they outwork people and how they handle conflict and how they handle coaches and players. So I would keep my eye on that, not necessarily here. I don't know what's next here for some of the people, who just kind of, what I'm saying is there's turnover at like 5 and 6, with a lot of these teams. I'd keep my eyes on that. And then when you get in, well, then that part's easy because now you're in. Getting in's hard. When you get in, it's everything. All right, your dogs want to hang out on Thursday night and you got a 50-50 here with something with work. No, you don't. 90-10. Why? Getting into the NFL's hard. And it's fun when you ascend. Outworking people, coming up with clever ideas and not being offended if people don't like them. Or, yeah, Dustin, that's cool, man. I'll write it down. All right, then they never use it. Not being offended, not getting your feelings hurt super easily. Like I said, outworking everybody and being unique while being yourself. That's the answer when somebody gets in.
Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. Well, I appreciate everything that you have told us and everything on tonight's podcast. We got 43 minutes now worth of content for, everybody to hear. And I absolutely love that. I could go all day if I really wanted to. Like I said earlier, listening to you talk is a great thing. I know, I just love your voice and love listening to you. If you were on NFL Fox, for games, calling games, I would listen to you in a heartbeat. I might even turn on the game and then mute that and then put the K-Fan radio on just to listen to you.
Very nice.
Hopefully that syncs up, but most of the time I'm
nice.
at the games anyway. So
you're very nice. I've been blessed enough to do it a long time. I'm blessed enough that God keeps my vision good, keeps my hearing good, keeps my voice pretty much in one piece for the most part. And there's still a desire to prep for it and serve people like you, man. I mean, seriously, I'm not that may sound trite. It's not. It really means a lot to my heart to not, I don't need my ego inflated. I've done this a long time. It's God's put me in a position and lasted in these 3 jobs, calling races, K-Fan, and Vikings play-by-play, where I'm not going to last that long if people didn't like it. I understand that.
Right.
But to know that it matters to people and people look forward to it. And if people got crappy things going on in their lives and they flip on K-Fan during a Vikings game and I'm hitting a call and it makes them feel good, that's awesome. That's fantastic. See, when I pray, those are things I thank God for, that he puts me in a position to give people distraction from their lives. That's when I say prayer. Prayer is very important to me. And it mostly is just giving thanks for the unbelievable amount of love God gives despite sin and stuff like that. And part of it is the recognition that when I push on, there are a lot of people listening. And when Darnold goes for 5, I got to do it right, because I owe it to those who have taken time to listen. And there's no pressure with that. There's no pressure. There's no pressure when you serve. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Before we hop off here too, I just want to make a couple points. I have a personal TikTok account. Drew has a TikTok account as well. I have a little over 21,000 followers. I've accumulated that since 2019. And sometimes I'll go to the Mall of America or at a game and I'll get recognized. And it's kind of weird in a way because, I'm not that big of a content creator. And it's just really cool to see that. I'm very humble about it. It's really nice to see. And
it's flattering.
People message me and be like, hey, are you going to the game? Are you going to the game? Can I get a picture with you? And it's like, yeah, for sure.
It's flattering because you know what? There's going to be a day that nobody cares about Paul Allen's opinion of the Minnesota Vikings or the NFL. And nobody's going to care about your opinion about, what you were doing here in 2024. So to recognize that, just connect the dots there. Somebody took the time to come up and show you kindness. Oh, boy, that happens a lot in this day and age. So that right there in its own right it's flattering. Now, if you were to talk to, some of the people with whom I've been friends and, since I moved here full time in 98, specifically the producer of my radio show, Eric Nordquist, I can tell you this, but a lot of people personal to my life would tell you that I'm a little socially awkward. I don't like being out in big crowds. Maybe because I've crafted my career, or God's crafted my career to Men 2554 talking sports for 3 decades. Like, hey, Dustin, let's go get a beer and sit at the bar and watch Clemson. That ain't gonna happen. I like quiet. I like wood burning fires. I like reading in the Bible. You are salt of the earth, and figuring out 2,000 years ago why they said it and why people still say it now. And that's what I like doing, and I like calling games and calling races and doing radio shows.
Yeah. Hey, before we head off here for tonight, again, I do want to thank you for joining. You definitely didn't have to, and I appreciate, me and Drew would definitely appreciate you joining tonight and
right on, man.
Speaking some nice
honor.
Words and getting your Vikings intake. So before we do head off, I do want to say, one of my favorite calls that you have, anytime that Adrian Peterson or Dalvin Cook or any ex running back, whoever it is, they get loose. I just love the "and he's loose" call. So if we do get a long call, or I guess a long run, I think you only do that for touchdowns. Am I?
I think I had one this year. I think I did one with Van Ginkel. It might have been in London.
Okay, it might be.
Well, the origin of that is being a racetrack announcer for more than 30 years, and they're racing in the 612 Classic. I don't do it at the racetrack anymore. I don't know why, but I started calling Vikings games in 02. I'd say 96 to 04. Horse opens up by 4 lengths at the top of the stretch. Dustin K opens up by 4, and he's loose into the final. I wouldn't screaming or anything, but it was a very short amount of time. In short order, I recognized in 07 that I need to come up with something for this guy because it's a wave, just like he's getting through the line of scrimmage. Then it's just like a vapor. And so I thought about my racetrack calls and, I'm like, and so-and-so's been left in the wake of a keen turn of speed by Adrian Peterson. That takes too long to get out. Sure. So I started with Andy's loose. And, man, when he would get loose, wow, was
got
that
the
fun.
Crescendo going, huh?
Yeah, for sure.
So awesome. Hopefully we get to hear one of those this Monday, and I almost said Sunday, but Monday, hopefully we get one of those new awesome Winter Warrior jerseys. I'm hoping I can get to the game on Monday. So
sweet.
Yeah. Thank you again, Paul, for joining.
God bless you guys. Text me anytime you want to do anything. You know where to find me. And I appreciate you guys very much. Best of luck with your podcast and
thank you.
Everything that goes with it. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Very much.
See y'all later.
Go Vikes.
Yeah.